like as if we were in the beginning because I
Okay.
lost some of the stuff in the beginning.
Okay.
Just be like, I'm Mr. Krause.
Yeah, my name's Axel Krause, and well, here's the story of my fight with cancer. Yeah, what happened to me, how I managed to survive.
It's good.
Okay,
Perfect.
cut and paste. I guess I'm more aware of it, cancer showing up somewhere, even somewhere else in your body, right? I mean, we all should know that we should check ourselves for lumps and bumps. You know, I mean.
Are you an advocate for that now?
Oh,
for
yeah.
family and friends?
Yes, and students, right? I tell them. I mean, one of the things that is taught to women, you know, is that the breast cancer thing, you know, and who was it? The rock star, Biff Naked.
Yeah.
She just had breast cancer, right? And they interviewed her, and you know, her line was always, okay, what do you tell young women? And she says, know your boobs, right? She came right out and said, know your boobs. You got to know what they're like so that you can tell if they're not the way they are, if something's growing, right? And I got to say the same thing for guys, is know your balls, right? It's you know, and guys go, oh my God, right? You know, I don't want to talk about this. Well, no, you don't need to talk about it, but do it, right? You go have a shower. Make sure you know what things feel like so that if something goes sideways, different, you can tell that it's happened. Because if you don't know what you're supposed to, you know, what you're like normally, how can you tell if something's abnormal, right? So, yeah, I think the same message should be pushed for young men as is pushed for young women, right? It's particularly young men, as opposed to, I mean, women generally get breast cancer older in life, right? But testicular cancer hits guys after from the age of 17 to 40. You know, it's those in your late teens and early 20s and 30s. It's the most common type of cancer for guys. So, I mean, unless you're a silly smoker or something like that, but you know, then you're asking for it. I think, right? That's a different issue. So yeah, that's what I'd say for guys. Know your balls. Don't sweat the small stuff, because you know, it's like tomorrow you could get cancer or get hit by a bus or something, who knows, right? But you know, it's like, does it really matter in the big scheme of things? And I look at other people and I say, yeah, I used to be like that when I was younger. I was like, oh, got to do this, got, you know, get people to do their thing, and you know, and it's like, okay, whatever, you know. So I've become a little bit more zen about it. You know, it's like, relax. It'll be good.
Did you have anyone to sort of inspire you through that, like family standing by, your wife overall?
Well, mostly my wife, yeah. I mean, you know, she was really great, I have to admit. I mean, being the nurse, and you know, she was just, I mean, even when I was in the hospital, you know, then the other nurses appreciated her because she was doing all the tubes and things and stuff that needed to be new, you know. Even when I was still coming out of the anesthetic, she was looking after me, and she just told them and showed them her card and said, look, nurse, I'll look after them, and they said, oh, okay, fine, you know, we'll look after our other patients. So it was a load off them, and of course I got premium care, you know, because, so, yeah. The worst part for me in the whole thing even has really nothing to do with the cancer, is I had to have, well, okay, because they're operating, one of the things they do is they flush your intestines. Try to get everything out of there, so just in case they do nick the intestine accidentally with a scalpel, there's less chance of infection. And so then afterwards you have to get your intestines going again, right? They've got this bright, clean, pink intestine with nothing in it. And I used to be able to eat anything before I had cancer, and because they flushed out all the intestinal flora now, a little bit more touchy stomach, you know, right? Sort of, you can't eat everything. So that's something that I lost. But while I was in, the week that I was in there, they had a big nasogastric tube into my stomach because they pump out all the bile and stuff, because I wasn't eating anything yet. And that tube, oh, it was about the size of my little finger. And it was just, I hated it. It was like my hell, you know, having this tube in my throat and down into my stomach. And we're living with that for a week, and then when it finally came out, it was just like, that was the biggest relief. It was weird. It was just a total sideshow, right? Total sideshow to what was going on. But that's the thing I focused on because it was so irritating. So I don't know. Again, things may have improved since then, but
Mm-hmm.
they had to keep removing the bile because my intestines weren't working yet. So they had to bring it out this way before it could go that way. So it was one of the chemotherapies, I think, and I was just so sick. Maybe the third one, who knows. And I remember I was lying in the bed, and my wife and my brother-in-law were talking quietly in the room, and I could hear them, but I was sort of zoning out, right? And I just didn't want to live anymore. So I guess you're asking, about the depression piece. I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel like I was depressed. I just didn't want to live anymore. It was like
Didn't want to deal with
I didn't
what
want
you
to
were
deal
doing.
with the pain and all this, stuff, right? And so I was, sort of waffle, going in and out, kind of. I'd hear them and then I wouldn't. And then when I was really little, back in Germany still, 4 or 5 years old, I lived with my grandparents for a while. And they had a garden, sort of, like the community gardens that people have around, right? It's done on a bigger scale in Europe, where you have a fairly big plot of land, which actually has a little cottage, like a little shed thing, on it. It's called a Schrebergarten in German. And we used to go there. And I loved this place because, they had little garden gnomes that were most my size and stuff. So, I loved going there with my grandparents. And when I was in this state, with the chemo, I suddenly saw the garden gate, and my hand was on the latch. And I believe, I'm a scientist and who knows what, but I believe that if I opened the gate and walked through, I could have chosen to die at that point. But my grandmother, who wasn't alive anymore, was on the other side and said, no, it's not your time yet. Right? You've got your wife and your daughter and your parents, and they're all still alive, and your sister. You can't come here yet. So, I don't know. It's an interesting twist on the whole thing. I don't know what that means, but